I'd like to now take a look at the interview that Michael Barrymore gave on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan. Again, there are many red flags to be observed here. The fact Michael Barrymore brought his solicitor on with him is a sign that they are very concerned about what this interview may bring. Often when it comes to police interrogations, when someone asks for a solicitor, although it doesn't automatically mean that somebody is guilty, more often than not, it is the criminals who request to have a lawyer present.
Did you watch the documentary?
Yeah, well, as much as I could watch of it. It started off as a normal documentary and then it just started to get vile and vicious and...
It was a very one-sided piece. It was just had a blinkered view and is trying to paint various conspiracy theories.
Already, Michael is beginning to play the victim again, and his solicitor interrupts him and starts speaking for him, claiming it was a very one-sided piece and that there were conspiracy theories thrown in the works. You'll notice, however, neither the solicitor or Michael ever elaborate on what these so-called conspiracy theories were.
I think the important thing to understand about it and the way it came about is 2 years before the documentary started, they actually approached Michael and they said to him, look, we want this to be a celebration of your life, can you come and meet us? And so Michael was being the very accommodating chap he is, he went to meet them. And they said to him, look, we want to pay you a large fee to make a documentary that's a celebration of your life and your victimisation by the press. And from there, Michael went away and sort of got in touch with him and said, look, I'm very sorry. I know you've commissioned this, you've started working on it, but it's not something I want to get involved in.
And then they made a different type of which is the one they did.
Again, Michael's solicitor is speaking for him, and you'll notice as he's speaking, Michael's eye level is down just like it was in the Martin Bashir episode. Both Michael and the solicitor have obviously had some very long discussions about how they were going to conduct themselves in this interview. One could safely assume that the solicitor is speaking for him and occasionally interrupting him when Michael begins to say things that could be potentially incriminating.
Well, what happened after that, after I said, no, it's not for me, because I said everything about the culture of the 90s and the press, I said, well, that's another documentary. I think if you're going to do my story justice, including the bad bits, you need to do it properly.
But let's cut to the quick, Michael, on this, because you know and I know that all it does, that kind of documentary, it just actually keeps the thing back in the headlines.
Yes.
Because ultimately we don't know the answer.
No.
And I've had a lot of sympathy for you over the years about the fact that you've been unable to move on. But I also have a lot of sympathy for the Lubbock family, and in particular Stuart's father, who is obviously completely grief-stricken, still feels that justice has not been done to his son. Put yourself into his shoes, that father, for a moment. Do you understand why, for him, it remains such a running sore, the injustice?
Yeah, I totally understand, and I've supported it all along. And it's been written also that, look, we haven't met. I've met him 3 times.
And we've always made himself available.
Well, it was clear in the documentary that you'd spent time
Was
with
it?
him.
Yeah, well, I probably missed that bit.
And
I'm starting to feel
when
sick.
you meet him, I presume what he wants to know, you've made it very clear that you had nothing to do with the death of Stuart Lubbock.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the question remains, do you have anything to offer the police which could lead to resolving this?
I honestly wish I did. I mean, I would put myself...
Did anyone else notice that Michael's body language is not matching the words that he is saying? When he says that he doesn't know anything, he begins to nod his head. Often when criminals are interviewed, their body language contradicts the words that they are saying. Michael's body language appears to be betraying him at this point. Though I can't prove for a fact that Michael's body language is a sign that he is guilty, I cannot ignore the fact that his mannerisms and his behaviour are indicative of somebody who is lying about something.
For 20 years of hell. I don't know anything. I haven't got another story. I've only got the one story that was the same when I was interviewed at the beginning, in 2006, after I come out of Big Brother. We had all this again, and then I've got no...
But do you believe somebody at that party? Well, how many were there?
No,
Eight
eight, 9 people.
I mean,
I don't
what
believe...
people say to me, Michael, they watch live stories, and I know you got great feedback to that. I know you've had the opposite, obviously, result of feedback from this documentary. But what people say to me is, look, there were a bunch of people here, some of which you knew, some you didn't, who came back to your house, and they're all adults. there's been obviously some kind of partying going on. It defies credibility, people say to me, that nobody had any idea how this guy ends up dead in your pool. Do you share that sense of incredulity? Do you believe somebody knows something?
No, I don't believe somebody. Well, I can't speak for them, but from what I know, I don't believe anybody could have, can't see how it could have happened.
This should be one of the most obvious red flags to anybody watching this. The reason this answer lacks credibility is because not only does Michael claim that neither himself nor anybody at the party knows or were involved in what happened to Stuart, but in doing so, that would mean that he is claiming that somebody came into his house from the outside and did these things to Stuart. But there is absolutely no way that Michael or somebody at the party wouldn't have noticed if somebody from the outside came in. As the coroner explained, the bruising suggested that Stuart was pinned down, and there is no way that one single person could have pinned Stuart down and inflicted the injuries at the same time. There would have been 2 or more people involved in this assault, so there is no way that 2 or more people entered Michael's house without him or anybody at the party noticing.
Because, you know, we're not to get into detail here today. I was asked not to because of the lawyers.
Actually, what I would add to this is, I mean, you've spent the best part of 3 hours in the room with this man.
Yeah.
He answered everything on your excellent life support.
You didn't leave a stone unturned.
Left no stone
And I
unturned.
answered everything.
And
Yeah.
Claiming he didn't leave a stone unturned is a blatant lie. He even stated himself that he didn't answer questions about drugs at the inquest because he didn't have to, and then when confronted by it, he got defensive and started saying that it was because other people told him not to.
when I got involved, which was 2 weeks before the documentary, Michael sent me a huge stack of papers. I've got them sitting in my office. I've gone through them all, and I mean, I just cannot see how anyone thinks that this has been anything other than a tragic accident.
Although I know lawyers are paid to protect their client, the fact that the lawyer says I don't understand how anybody could think this is anything other than a tragic accident, in my opinion, is an absolute insult to not only Stuart Lubbock but his entire family. Especially since the coroner has already proven that Stuart suffered severe internal injuries due to a violent sexual assault. The lawyer is obviously speaking for his client, but the fact he speaks over the top of him and tries to say that this was an accident is just, in my opinion, another diversion tactic.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously your name gets the headlines every time.
Yeah, I mean, they just kicked me in the teeth
Right.
every time. I don't know what to do.
Michael plays the victim again.
I really don't know what to do. I've been as honest as I can. I've only got the one story. I don't know anything else, otherwise I would have said.
He claims he's been as honest as he can and that he's always stuck to the one story, but it's already been shown that Michael's story has changed multiple times, including the time that he said that Stuart slipped and fell and that's how he sustained the injuries, and also with how he first stated that he didn't use any drugs that night, and then in a few sentences later he said that he did.
Had you taken any drugs that evening or during the day?
No, not during the day or that evening.
Did anybody take any drugs?
I took some drugs with a couple of them. I would have said what it is.
What impact has it had on you? Because each time it seems to me you make a step forward again.
Yeah.
Life stories, I know you were really
The
happy.
life stories that
Big
was
brother.
amazing. It turned it all round.
But now you've had all this negativity again, and Essex Police appear to be once again coming for you. How do you feel about that?
I feel bad about it. It makes me feel rotten because it seems nothing. They're so hell bent on this is how it is, but we can't make it fit.
That's one of the reasons why Michael's calling for a fresh independent police force to look into
Yeah,
the
it
case.
does need another police force to come in.
It
and
needs Essex to
investigate.
hand it over.
You have sympathy with a father.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who needs
I'm
an
happy
answer.
to see him. I'm happy to talk to the police anytime. My door's open 24/7. I've got nothing to hide. I've never had anything to hide.
Ironic that he says he's never had anything to hide, even though he was the one who fled the scene and then made a call to his solicitor and wasn't the one who called 999. Not only that, but what about when he said that he couldn't swim and then his wife confirmed that he could in fact swim, and so did his drug counsellor?
I've got every right to go out and to be employed and work in the business I work without every time being kicked in the teeth just because I'm back on telly. Well, about 10 years before Life Stories and then Dancing on Ice and other stuff I was offered. And it's only because I'm back on again, they all can get together, Channel 4, the police, And then
Have you yourself, Michael, talked to the other people who were there?
I've never seen them since that day.
All of them?
I wouldn't know if I fell over them.
All of them?
All of them, none of them. Not one I haven't got a number, nothing.
So you don't know any of these people?
I don't know any of them.
You've never spoken to them?
Not one.
And what struck...
And here we have another change to the story. For Michael to claim that he doesn't know anybody that was at that party is an absolute blatant lie. Not only was Jonathan Kenny his lover at the time, the one that he had a fight with at the club because he was giving too much attention to Stuart Lubbock, and also went to rehab with him after the incident, but it has already been shown that he was friends with James Futers and Simon Shaw 10 years prior to this incident. He even had James and Simon at his house in September of that year for drinks. Make no mistake, at this point, with all the lies that Michael has told, it is obvious that he does know what happened that night.
To me is odd. Has nobody ever tried to approach you who knows any of those people with any information which could be useful?
No, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of adults partying at your house and somebody dies. And what seems extraordinary to me is that your name's been attached to this for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Why has nobody tried to contact, or maybe they had, you can let us know, but has anyone ever tried to contact you and said, look, I know one of these people, and they were saying this? It seems like there's been this weird wall of silence from everybody.
Well, the wall of silence is because they don't know. They genuinely don't know. Why?
And do you believe them?
Yes, I do
Do
believe.
you believe that nobody at the party knew what happened?
I do believe that.
Again, lack of confidence and uncertainty in that answer.
I can't see how. If you, I mean, I've read because of going against Essex Police for wrongful arrest.
And another thing, when it comes to Michael's so-called wrongful arrest, Michael was seeking £2.4 million in damages because of what it did to his career. He claimed there were not reasonable grounds to arrest him, but later dropped the charges as there was insufficient evidence that he was arrested on unreasonable grounds. Another display of the narcissism and selfishness of his ego.
I was allowed to see every single witness statement. Everything I say is not because that's what I want you to hear, because that's the story I want to put out there. It's what's in witness. I only quoted from facts, and that's what I've
See,
used.
I would like your torment to be over.
So would I, yeah.
But I'd also like
Yeah, I'd like him
Mr.
to...
Lubbock's
No, I want
torment, which is obviously far worse than anybody's.
That comes before me or anybody. It doesn't matter how bad I feel and how awful this is all the time. I can't live my life, and I can't get on with my life.
And this brings it back to calling for a fresh police force, because
Yeah.
Essex Police have been basically going around in a loop for 20 years. It's not helping anyone. It's not.
When you speak to Terry Lubbock, what does he say to you when it's just you?
When we meet, it was like the first time I met him, I said, Terry, you know I've had nothing to do with this. He said, yes, I do.
Another demonstration of Michael's controlling personality, where he puts words into Terry Lubbock's mouth, you know I had nothing to do with it. Well, no, he doesn't know you had nothing to do with it. According to Michael, Terry went along with it and said, yes, I know you had nothing to do with it, but we've only got Michael's word for that. But if Terry really did say that, it was only because he was afraid, because here is a high-profile celebrity looking at him directly in the face and putting words into his mouth. Anyone in that situation would have felt intimidated and unable to stand up for themselves.
So why do you keep pointing at me every time we...
When you last saw him, what did he say to you? Because he keeps giving
When the
interviews to
last time
papers.
he saw, it was because of the police. They said, oh, we need to sort the police out. I said, well, let's do it. Let's get another set of police
But
in.
does he still believe that you know something you're not?
Well, he seems to. That's what he keeps saying all the time. And I've told him. I said, I said, why do you keep having a go at me when we part? And keep pointing fingers, like and everybody else is joining in now. And nudging, innuendo, or nudge, wink, wink. Oh,
Well, because ultimately,
He
look,
needs answers.
ultimately
I mean,
he lost his son.
Because it doesn't matter how bad it is for me. It's never going to be as bad as it is for Mr. Lovell and that family. Never. I know that, and I'm aware of that. Why would I hide or keep anything and put myself through this pain and agony every time that this comes up?
Because you're a narcissist and you care about nobody except yourself. Correctly put by George Galloway on Celebrity Big Brother.
And just sit like I did for 10 years between 2006 and now, and last year when it all turned around because of doing your show. And we're going over it again, and I answered you everything. And I said then that they come first, and absolutely come first, because I'm still here. Stuart isn't. But, you know, it's not been dealt with properly, and keep it as the same scenario and just repeat it every 5 years that I turn up on television, or 10 years, it's getting no one nowhere fast, and it needs to stop and reset and go again. And I don't care how many times they interview me.
So to clarify, you would like a completely independent police investigation?
Yes.
Well away from the Essex
Well, a
Police
separate
Force.
Well away,
police
not
force.
the local next borough, the next area, please. Well away, so completely separate.
And as the lawyer, do you think that is achievable?
I think it is. It needs Essex Police to hand over the case, essentially. But their main problem is they're so focused on getting a certain result, they put themselves under enormous pressure to get a certain result. And the evidence just doesn't back it up.
Yes, the evidence does back it up. Michael has been proven to be lying multiple times.
So they're sort of still having this very blinkered view of the case.
Well, there's never been any evidence to convict Michael of
No,
any
no.
crime here. And
And
yet the
they've
presumption
admitted-
by many people in the public each time this rolls out is that he must have been guilty of something.
Yeah, that's that amount of fun. And there's also, the only reason... sorry, I don't want this...
Didn't.
I've seen these fake, non-existent crocodile tears before, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Where have I seen it? Oh yes, now I remember.
The only reason I've got through the last 19 years, coming up 20 years, is the support, from massive support out there, from fans and my close mates, and my fans and my mates. I've had this relationship for years. They grew up with me, and they know me, and they know I'm not a runner.
I've heard a similar phrase uttered by somebody else. Where have I heard that before? Oh, perhaps this.
Talk to any of my friends, any of her friends. They know me. They know I would never harm my kids. I would never harm my wife.
Right? And they, through their support, not all the ones from Twitter Street, who come up with whatever, the pound shop detectives who take a bit of this and a bit of that, and it's a celeb, let's give him another kick it. And how many times am I supposed to be kicked? How many times am I supposed to take it? And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking. I've been through it. I'm a big boy, and I've got every right. I'm going to hold my head up and walk out on the street high because I am entitled to it, and it's my right to. And at the same time, of course, anything to do with the Lubbock family is paramount and over.
If you were Terry Lubbock, Michael, knowing you've read everything about this case, you've read about the injuries that Stuart sustained.
Does this look like the face of an innocent man to you?
Do you believe, fundamentally, if you were Terry Lubbock, would you think your son had died accidentally? Or would you share his view that there was something more to it, given everything that you've read about it? If you were him, if you were the father?
Honestly, based on what is there and the evidence, I would have to go down the line of it's not what he thinks.
That answer made absolutely no sense. It's almost laughable.
From what I've seen, it just doesn't add up to that sort of case.
Listen, we've got to leave it there. It's. I'm sorry, Michael, that we keep. Each time we have a positive interview, it's followed by another one like this. This won't go away, and I'm not quite sure how it does.
The only way to make this go away, Michael, is for you to tell the truth and to come forward with everything that you know. You are in your 70s now, Michael. You're never going to have the career that you once had. I'm not a religious person, and you may not be either. But if there is such thing as a heaven and a hell and a God, you will have this to answer for in the afterlife. It's time to set the Lubbock family free and give them the closure that they deserve, and it's time to set yourself free so that you no longer have to carry this burden.